Welcome back. This year, here at The Real Deal, we're holding a new election since our last host, Abby, was eaten by alligators and Parker finally succumbed to his crippling fear of clowns.
I'll say it once and I've said it again. Abigail Nicole Perry was a phony and a fraud.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What? That's what she gets for trying to drain the swamp, Nate.
What about Parker?
What about him? Abby moved to Florida. And she left me here with Parker? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it won't be the same without her expertise in putting Parker in his place.
Come on, guys, I can hear you.
Hello, and welcome back to The Real Deal, Ball State's premier entertainment news show. I'm your host, Marcos Carranza.
And I'm Nate Richard.
First question of our election debate. Anastasia, good or bad for America?
Anastasia is a fantastic leader for The Real Deal, and frankly, she gives good hugs, and I'm not afraid to say
Well, actually, I think that Anastasia is the most qualified... Wait. You know what? Actually, I completely agree with you, Nate.
What?
Yeah, Anastasia. She's our executive producer for The Real Deal. She's kind, caring, fashion-forward, gives really good hugs. Who else would I be talking about, Nate?
I know, right? Have you ever talked to her about Guillermo del Toro? I just love talking to someone who loves the director as much as I love Spielberg.
I don't know if Anastasia has a shrine of Guillermo del Toro like you do for Spielberg, though, Nate.
She doesn't, but that's okay, because I have a shrine for her, too.
Well... Okay, here's Anastasia for our first segment.
TikTok currently is a favorite social media platform. It has been downloaded on the App Store over 2 billion times and has 800 million active users. And it's majorly populated by Gen Z and young millennials. It features videos of everything and anything for a minute or less. And it's been referenced in SNL, skits, TV series, and music. Since quarantine started, it's become the source of entertainment for a lot of people. Tons of people on Ball State's campus have TikTok, and so do a lot of us. But it has become a point of discussion in United States politics. What started out as Musical.ly, it was originally a joke around the internet, a cheap imitation of what Vine once was. Musical.ly wasn't too big of an issue, though. It didn't become a threat until Chinese company named ByteDance launched TikTok and went on to acquire Musical.ly in 2018. President Trump has threatened to ban the app on multiple occasions, once following Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying on July 6th that the United States was taking the TikTok threat seriously and that the user data could end up, quote, in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, end quote. President Trump on July 7th suggested banning TikTok as a punishment for the outbreak of coronavirus. In August, Trump signed papers that declared TikTok and WeChat threats to national security. Trump's executive order, however, was blocked September 27th that would have taken TikTok and WeChat out of the United States App Store. Now the question is TikTok actually a threat to the United States government? The answer is, like most things, complicated. ByteDance claims that they're in no way connected to the Chinese Communist Party, nor would they give United States citizens data to the Chinese government. The company explained they keep the U.S. data in the U.S. or in a backup server in Singapore. ByteDance isn't even operating in China and has an independent subsidiary, as well as security experts doubting that TikTok would be a very useful form of espionage even if the Chinese government were to get their hands on U.S. data. In the defense of the U.S., TikTok has received scrutiny from other countries besides the United States. India banned TikTok with other Chinese apps, though this may have something to do with the border skirmish between the two countries. And Australia also looked into TikTok regarding privacy issues and foreign interference, but the accusations came back unfounded. And finally, in an attempt to keep the Chinese government from user data, a new American company called TikTok Global has been made. The companies Oracle and Walmart purchased 20% stakes in the new company, which is being looked into by the US government. But for now, TikTok will stay in the App Store and on your phones. That's it from me. I'm Anastasia Scott.
Thank you, Anastasia. Now, topic number 2. Autumnal activities that stimulate the recessive nation in a post-bull economy that relies on social reformative legislature.
I like fall.
Yeah, me too. It's the best time of the year for scary movies.
Oh, yeah. Saw, Final Destination, Friday the 13th, Hereditary.
Monsters, Inc.
That's not a scary movie, Nate.
Okay. So more like Halloween Town High.
Nah, not quite. More like movies that make you just want to crawl under the covers and shiver with fear. Ones that you can't watch with the lights off, otherwise it'll give you nightmares.
Oh, March of the Penguins.
Yes, that one makes my skin crawl. Morgan Freeman's voice still haunts me.
We should probably bring in an expert on Halloween movies. Katie?
While Marcos and Nate may be correct in saying The March of Penguins is a terrifying movie, I wouldn't consider it a classic. Now that it's officially Halloween month, and apparently I'm a Halloween expert, I'm here to tell you where you can find your favorite Halloween classics. On Disney Plus, there is now a Halloween section with some of my all-time favorite Halloween movies. They may not be your scary type that you're probably looking for, but they are great to watch with friends and family while eating loads of candy. And don't worry, I've already done that this October, and you bet I'm going to keep it up. Some of the movies on Disney Plus are Halloween Town, Twitches, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Hocus Pocus, and many more. I would definitely recommend giving it a look. However, if you don't like Disney Plus, or you don't have it, there are still some great movies on Netflix to watch. Some of my personal favorites are The Addams Family and Goosebumps, as well as some genuine horror such as Scream, Silence of the Lambs, and of course, it isn't October without a good viewing of Scary Movie. These are just a few of the many spooky movies available for you this spooky season. Thank you, Marcos and Nate. Now back.
Thanks, Katie, for an amazing first segment. You're the best. Now on to question number 3. How would you handle foreign relations in an increasingly globalized world?
Well, I'd like to think I'm very educated on this topic because I have a Nintendo.
They killed the 3DS, Nate. Someone has to pay for these crimes.
Easy there, Marcos. That's the nature of a free market enterprise.
Yeah, well, under my reign, there won't be a foreign relations or a free market. I will own everybody.
You know what? That's actually not a bad idea. I think I can get behind that.
Under our new system, everyone will be able to play 3DS games. And not just the 3DS, but the 2DS and the original DS, because I'm kind of a generous leader.
Even the DS Lite? Well, then you've got my vote.
No, Nate. We will rule together, side by side. No votes needed.
Well, while we plan our new Sith Empire, Parker will address the death of the 3DS.
Rise, young Carlson.
About a month ago, Nintendo announced the discontinuation of the 3DS line of handheld consoles. Now, this news isn't exactly new, but I feel like there are important points that were not touched upon by most. Namely, what's next for the handhelds and why this news is bigger than you'd think. Now that we've had time to mourn our lost childhood friend, I think it's about time to dig up the old DS grave and take a post-mortem look at how Nintendo effectively killed a lineage dating back to the ancient era of 1989. Way back in time, before even the Berlin Wall fell down, Nintendo created a revolutionary gaming device, the Game Boy. Now, I'm not going to talk about much about it because if you don't know it, you've been living underneath a rock. But through various iterations, the Game Boy has evolved into the Game Boy Advance SP, the one true handheld to rule them all, so popular that everybody either had one or knew somebody who had one. What came after was the announcement of the DS, which turned out to be even more popular. What's important is that during the DS announcement, Nintendo specifically stated, no, this will not replace the Game Boy. Lo and behold, it did. Everybody casually agreed that to ignore what Nintendo was saying and take the DS as the next successor to the Game Boy, since it not only was backwards compatible with the Game Boy library, but was the next step of gaming on the go. If that sounds slightly familiar, it's because Nintendo has done exactly the same thing with the 3DS and the Switch. Given that the Switch is a hybrid console, both at home and on the go, people think that maybe the Switch is the unofficial, official successor to the 3DS. But I, an expert on the matter for a whole 2 minutes, say no, of course it's not. Sure, the Switch Lite is comparable to a portable handheld console, but that's not what defines a Nintendo handheld. The Switch Lite is just a cheaper offshoot of the Switch, which doesn't have backwards compatibility with the 3DS like how the 3DS had with the DS and the DS before it with the Game Boy. Call me a nerd, but it just doesn't have that feel that it should have to call it the next generation of the 3DS. So with the discontinuation of the 3DS and it being tangentially related to the Game Boy, Nintendo has closed the market on handheld consoles. No other competitors survived after the failure of the PS Vita, so that's it. The next best thing would be mobile gaming on our phones, but does that ever really count? AAA games have watered down releases on phones like Fortnite, but that's no replacement. After single-handedly keeping Nintendo relevant through the Wii U, you would think maybe they would keep the 3DS alive. But no. Our generation was the last to trade Pokemon with friends, play PictoChat on the bus, or to scramble looking for our lost DS stylus. All that's left is ashes and dust, and overpriced 3DS units from scalpers looking to profit from it being discontinued. Rest in peace, little buddy. See you later. I'm Parker Carlson.
Thanks, Parker, for talking about the end of this era. Now for our final question.
No, Nate. It's our final word. There are no questions in our empire. We do what we want.
Even eating breakfast for dinner?
Do people stop you from doing that now, Nate? Is everything okay at home, dude?
Anyway, on to our final word.
Last week, I talked to you about a shakeup for the better this 2020, and this week will be no different. This time the news comes on the film side of the entertainment world. Recently, some electric news is that Jamie Foxx is in final discussions with Marvel Studios to reprise his role as a Spider-Man villain Electro in the newest installment in the series. You may remember the 2014 Andrew Garfield-led Amazing Spider-Man series, which commercially didn't perform as well as the other Spider-Man movies helmed by Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland respectively. This is where Fox made his debut into the franchise, and now it looks like he will do so again. This is exciting not only for Spider-Man fans like myself, but for the larger Marvel universe as well. Similarly with how J.K. Simmons was reintroduced into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, Fox's reprisal opens the doors to introducing the multiverse within the MCU in a very concrete way. Personally, I think that introducing other versions of Spider-Man into the MCU would be awesome, but it seems unlikely to me, at least at this point. Not only for the logistical reasons such as who owns the right to what in terms of those other films, but also the fact that so much time has passed since the original Sam Raimi installments. The original Spider-Man came out in 2002, and fans have already subcategorized the different Spider-Men into different experiences. Tom Holland, for example, could not be Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, and I think the same is true vice versa. Regardless of what may come from this news, I think that Fox's addition to the film will, at the very least, add to the hype. I am certainly intrigued at the possibility that this could open for the multiverse in the larger MCU, especially after Disney's acquisition of Fox, which includes properties like the X-Men and Deadpool. Although ultimately, only time will tell what direction the new Spider-Man and larger MCU will go due to Fox's return, and I, for one, am excited. I'm Marcos Carranza, and this has been my final word.
COVID-19 has completely changed the release strategy for major films in this new era of streaming. Sure, Netflix has released would-be blockbusters like The Irishman, Six Underground, and Bird Box on their streaming service and has picked up distribution for would-be theatrical films such as The Cloverfield Paradox and Mowgli, but now it's become more common for studios to sell off their films to streaming services for a couple of reasons. One being because they don't know how the film would do on premium video on demand, and two, because the streamers might just be a better home for the film. We've seen films like the forthcoming Michael B. Jordan actioner Without Remorse was shipped off for Paramount to Amazon Prime Video for a release early next year, as well as Aaron Sorkin's star-studded drama The Trial of the Chicago 7 being sold to Netflix with a release scheduled in just a few weeks. But what I really want to focus on is this new strategy of surprise dropping films. Last week, Amazon Prime Video announced that a sequel to the beloved 2006 Sacha Baron Cohen comedy, Borat, had already been filmed over the course of the summer, and that it will be released on the service on the 23rd of this month. Warner Brothers also announced the new Robert Zemeckis film, The Witches, starring Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer, and based off the classic Roald Dahl book, would be releasing on HBO Max on the 23rd as well, foregoing its planned theatrical release. While I'm not sure if Borat's subsequent movie film would have been a theatrical release, I am absolutely certain that The Witches would have been given one solely because of Zemeckis being the one behind it. While I miss going to the movie theaters, I just haven't had the motivation to go back outside of seeing Tenet. I'm perfectly happy with watching these two new films in the comfort of my apartment, where I won't be worried about catching COVID and won't have to deal with annoying audience members. Both of the trailers for both of these films showed some promise, the Borat trailer more so, and both look like entertaining films, perfectly timed for Halloween with The Witches and Election Day with Borat. We don't have long to find out how these movies actually turned out. I'm Nate Richard, and that has been my final word.
If you want more from us here at The Real Deal, you can check out our Facebook, Twitter, and website for all things entertainment. I'm your host, Marcos Carranza.
And I'm Nate Richard. See you next time on The Real Deal.